Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get the show started here in just a minute, but I am excited to be here with my friend, Mark Schaefer. Mark, how are you doing today?
Rocking and rolling.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited to have this conversation. It's been needing to happen for a while. We've been talking about these things in private conversations for quite a while, and it's exciting that we can bring a few different things together in this conversation, all about not only events, but branding, your new book that you're going to talk about. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It will be a lot of fun, Phil.
It will be.
Let's just put that flag right in the sand right now.
Here's what's going to be fun too, is we're getting ready to reveal for the very first time, at least a version of my podcast intro. The podcast is going to be coming out very soon, Mark, and it's called Event Innovator, the Event Innovator Show. So,
am I the first guest or one of the first guests on that new pivot?
You will be one of. I've got some that are pre-recorded, but you know, if we do a bang-up job today, which I know you will, then we'll make you one of the very first ones. How's that?
All right. Well, the bar's been set. I'm ready.
The bar has been set. You're set. You're ready. All right. Well, we're going to wait till the top of the hour to actually start it, since that's what we advertise. So while we're doing that, tell me something interesting you did this summer, Mark.
What did I do this summer? I mean, the main thing that comes into my mind is I was obsessed writing a new book, which is now finished. It has to go through editing, production, so it'll be out in January. But this experience was different for me because usually when I write a book, I just get exhausted. I just get completely wiped out. But this book was very energizing. I learned a lot. It got me out of my comfort zone. And I just know, like, this book is going to be huge. I mean, people are just going to love it. And so I'm excited for people to see it. It was just so much fun writing this book that I told my wife, you know, when I was finished with it, I said, I'm sad it's over. I've never said that before.
That's amazing.
Usually when I'm finished with a book, they're like tears of relief.
And you wanted this one to keep going, huh?
But this was really an energizing book. Yeah.
That's amazing. Hey, I can see that our mutual friend Eric Tung is watching us. Hey, Eric, how are you doing, friend? It's good to see familiar names and faces. Well, Mark, are you ready to get this show going?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, here is the first time ever official podcast intro as produced by Music Radio Creative. Here it is.
Welcome to the Event Innovator Show, where we explore the ideas and strategies that are transforming events. Get ready to unlock the secrets to creating extraordinary experiences. And now, here's your host, Phil Michon.
Well, welcome, everybody. I am so excited to be here today with my friend, Mark Schaefer. If you don't know Mark, you should, because he wrote the book Known, among other books that he's written. He is a keynote speaker. He's actually spoken at Social Media Marketing World, I don't know, 8 or 9 times, Mark. I'm not even sure. And
9 or 10.
I know you're going to be there next year in 2025. You are working on a new book that's coming out next year. We're going to talk about that. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Delighted to be here. Delighted just to be talking to you.
It's always fun to talk to you, Mark. I always appreciate it. So I want to bring 2 parts of your world together today in this conversation in a way that hopefully will serve event startups and events that are trying to reimagine themselves. And that is, personal branding is something that you've really made a name for yourself with. The book Known has been used all over the world by universities and places like that. But you've also got your own event called the Uprising. And then actually we're going to bring a third thing in, that's your new book. So let's talk about the Uprising. What is that event and how did it get born?
Well, it was born out of boredom.
I love it.
Well, so I used to have a big event of my own. This would have been like 2011 through maybe 2013 or 2014. I had a big event in my hometown of Knoxville called Social Slam. And I was getting 600, 700 people to this event. It was growing every year. And it was a big success, and people just loved it. It was a conference that had a lot of heart, a lot of soul. But I was miserable because when there's 700 people there, it's just a blur. I wasn't connecting in a meaningful way. At the end of the event, I was just exhausted. And I think the pivot point for me was the last year we had people there from 28 states and I think like 15 countries. People had come from all around the world to see me. At the end of the event, we had like a party, and then people stayed out, and they wanted me to go out and celebrate with them. And I was so tired, I couldn't do it. I just went home and I collapsed. And I just thought, this is not how I want to be. So I ended that event. And then in 2019, I wrote a book called Marketing Rebellion. And in that book, I talked about the importance of community, the importance of belonging, the power of bringing people together. When you bring people together in a live event, it changes everything. So it sort of inspired me to try again. But I needed to do it in a different way. I needed to do it in a way that you could really connect with people. And so I created the Uprising. It's limited to 30 people. And I have one in the spring. I have one in the fall. There's one coming up in October. There's a couple spots left for October. And so that's problem number one that it solved, is that you over 3 days, you really get to know people. We organize this in a way so that every single interaction connects people in a meaningful way. So every meal, you're assigned. You sit next to different people. Every time we organize the room, you sit next to different people. It's not presentations. It's facilitated conversations. So you walk away just connected, inspired. And a friend of mine said, Mark, I don't know how to describe this. People ask me about it. Like, it's not an event. It's not a conference. It's not a mastermind. The only word that comes to mind is a bond. So it just creates this bond. The second problem it solves is that I became frustrated that most conferences I go to are iterative. So we're talking about how to do better on your Facebook ads and how to do better on your SEO. Meanwhile, we're living in a time where in the next 12 months, we won't even recognize what marketing looks like. And so this event, the Uprising, is about relevance. It's about getting people together and saying, how do we get ready for this? How are we relevant? How are we resilient in this hurricane of change? So that's the theme of the event. Everything is future focused. All the conversations are future focused to get us ready for what's coming next. So, and it's a retreat. So I guess maybe that's the third thing that makes it different, is that it's in a lodge in the woods. We have gourmet food, we have music, we have fun, we have hikes, there are gardens. So it's you get re-energized. My goal is nobody who comes can be stressed. Nobody can be stressed. Nobody has to prepare. You just wear jeans. But we bring in amazing, amazing thought leaders to help provoke these discussions. At the next one, we've got Senior Vice President from Ipsos, the number one consumer research company. We've got a Senior Vice President from Pepsi coming. We've got a Senior Vice President from LBMC, the second biggest accounting firm, coming. We have my friend Amanda Russell coming. She wrote an important book on influence marketing, right? The Influencer Code. Sarah Wilson, former Facebook, Instagram is coming. We've got a woman coming, a word of mouth marketing expert. So these are people that are going to lead these really profound, stimulating conversations that make this event exciting.
So a couple of questions. My understanding of the people that pay to come to this event typically are higher level, more senior people within their companies. Like your price point is attracting a certain kind of person. Talk to me a little bit about that. And that may not be true, but how do you make sure the right people are in the room?
Well, the first thing is, so this is a very keen question, And I struggled with this. And let me tell you a great personal learning I had. So the first time I had this event, people started showing up that I never heard of before. And I started thinking about the most important thing about this event is the chemistry, right? I mean, if there's only 30 people, you can't have a diva in the room, right? I mean, you can't have someone obnoxious in the room. So I started worrying about, should I have like people apply to come to this? And a friend of mine said, Mark, how do you know that exactly the right people aren't coming to this? I said, all right, let's let it roll. And that's exactly what happened, Phil. And what happens is that everybody participates. Everybody has their own heritage, their own experience, their own, education, their own, situation of what they've experienced on the job. And so, I mean, everybody does have a place. And it's funny that something happens and I can't completely explain it. But when you walk through the door of this, and this lodge is beautiful, right? There's big leather chairs and beautiful art on the walls, and it's in the woods. And when you walk through that door, the egos go away. At my last event in April, Sandy Carter was there. Sandy was a vice president with IBM and with Amazon. And 1 month before she was at my event, she was at Davos. She was having dinner next to the first lady of the Ukraine. Now she's at the Uprising, and she was completely present every moment. And at dinner, I overheard her having conversations about parenting. So this magical thing happens. And we need diversity, right? I don't want just senior people. I want younger people. We've got people from agencies. We've got people from small businesses. We've got people who have been in marketing, less than 10 years, and people who have been in marketing more than 30 years. But I actually like that diversity. Normally, I even have I give a scholarship to like a university student. So we have like a Gen Z presence there, right? We need that. That's part of the energy. So, everybody has a role. Everybody is welcome. Everybody is worthy. And the price point, it's about $4,000, but every person that goes there said this was a bargain because it's all inclusive. I mean, it covers, once you get there, everything is taken care of. And you walk away saying, wow, he could have charged a lot more for this.
So my second question, you differentiated your event from all the other events, including the ones that I'm part of, being this one's more future focused as opposed to here's how things work today, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me that for that to be true, this needs to become a community that has ongoing conversation and not just a point in time conversation. Now, are you seeing that emerge? Like people are building relationships? Do you have like a cohort that emerges, or people just making their own connections that continue on after this retreat/event that you've created?
Well, both. So we have a Discord community.
Okay.
So when people go to the Uprising, they can choose to be part of this Discord community. And, I would say at least half the people in the Discord community have been to the Uprising. So it's a good way to keep those connections going, to keep those conversations going. We create a little room where people continue to process what happened at the Uprising. And then people also, you walk away with 29 new friends. So these business relationships continue to flourish really in remarkable ways. And this is not the purpose of it, but like after the first Uprising, there were a total of like 30 people there, including me. And I had a financial transaction with 18 of them afterwards, where either they were hiring me or I was hiring them. And that sort of continued, because these are people that to love and trust and respect. Mm-hmm. So you kind of want to help each other. That's not the primary purpose of this, but business is built on trust. It's built on relationships. And when you walk away from the Uprising with really deep connections with people, and that certainly propels business. Almost every person that's come to the Uprising, it maybe it's like new guest for your podcast, or a new mentor, or a new customer. It just kind of goes on and on and on. And a lot of people come back to the Uprising. So, typically at the Uprising, at least half the people are alumni.
Oh, interesting. That's a unique dynamic right there. Not the seniors, but the conversation starters that you talked about, the people who are going to lead conversations or provoke a conversation. Do you recruit them, or have they approached you saying, I want to be part of this, and then you ask them to lead? How does that work?
Well, I do recruit a few people. So, I have a certain vision of things that are going on in the world that I think we need to cover in some special way. So I'll reach out to someone who is, just at the top of their field. An example would be Sarah Wilson. Okay, so Sarah is former Facebook, former Instagram. She is studying Gen Z. She's studying the newest trends that are determining social media and content for our future. She's studying how they are coming together in brand communities. She's studying the power of influencers. So, her unique insight, I think, is absolutely critical to bring into the Uprising. So I asked her, will you come? And then what happens, Phil, beyond that, beyond me, recruiting a few people to come, there's like this sort of magical formula, because my job is before the Uprising, I send out a survey. This is I'll give you a great example of this magic that happens. I send out a survey and I say, okay, here are some big topics, here are like 20 different topics about what's going on in marketing. What do you want to talk about? What's important to you? So at the last one of the top big topics was brand communities. So I thought, okay, how am I going to tackle this? Well, another question on the survey is, what would you like to teach? If you could teach something from your experience, what would you want to teach? So one guy who I never heard of before writes in, well, I lead a community of 40,000 people.
Okay.
Another woman writes, she says, well, I'm experimenting with community and nonprofits. So it's like, boom, like just the right people step up to fill the gaps. So I kind of create this cocktail of using the expertise in the room in creative ways to teach each other. And it just works.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, I want to transition and talk a little bit about branding of events. So I think it's a mix of how much people think about branding when it comes to their event, but a lot about personal branding, and you've thought a lot, obviously, about the identity of the Uprising. So start with, how did you discover what the identity was going to be? I'm sure it's evolved since the first one to now, but if you were putting it in branding terms, how do you communicate what this is?
Well, it's a more complicated question than it seems, because I can't really explain what it is.
Okay, let's try it.
And I'm getting closer. And let me tell you what I mean. Okay, so my vision for the Uprising, it's an event that's energizing, inspiring, future focused, and it's highly organized to develop meaningful, impactful conversations and relationships. I actually hired an organizational design expert to help me design this in a way that every single thing about this event is intentional. Like the name tags, where people sit, how they eat, how the food is served, icebreakers. Everything is designed to build this emotional crescendo to the event. So at the end, they don't want to leave. I mean, it's become this special place. Now, so that was the goal. Now, when I started doing this, so that's easy to explain.
Yes.
Future focused, relationship based. When I started doing this, the feedback has been, this changed my life. Now, I didn't expect that. I'll never forget this moment. We were at the end, the last night of the first event. And this guy put his arms on my shoulders and he looked me in the eye and he said, "This was perfect." So this sort of magical thing happens. A guy sitting next to me, he said, "Mark, how do you do this? Everyone here is like this positive, generous, helpful person. They're good. These are people that want to do something good in the world. These aren't tricksters just trying to get you to trick on an SEO link. These are people that really want to create something great in the world." So there's this other element where I say, hey, I can get feedback from the event that says I was successful. But then there's this other thing that happens, Phil, that I can't really explain. And this might lead us to the next topic about awe that helps me explain it. So, I mean, if you go to my webpage, the event is explained. But when you go there, you know that it's something else. You find out that it's something that you can't put down in words.
Yeah, I think transformation is a hard thing to encapsulate in a few words on a web page. I'm curious, before we leave talking about branding, I'm thinking that your personal brand may have a lot to do with the kinds of people that are showing up. Because you've spent a long time building your personal brand, and we know that if you've done it right, you're going to attract the kinds of people that like you and that you're going to probably like them. And you think that's true, or is there more to it?
I think that's absolutely, it's a very keen insight. You're absolutely right. And I think that is part of the magic and part of the synergy of the event. I mean, when you go to an event led by me, you know it's not going to be a booze cruise. Right. It's going to be uplifting. It's going to be ethical. It's going to be nurturing. It's going to be, classy. So I think that it sort of does attract people who are attracted to kind of that sort of that person or that personality. Another interesting thing is that, so I couldn't have done this if I hadn't built my personal brand first, right? I mean, think about the sheer audacity when I started this, let's call it 2018, of saying, hey, I'm starting this thing, never done it before. it's like kind of a big experiment, but we're going to meet at this lodge and we're going to have this forward thinking kind of event. And it's like $4,000 and it's sold out. Now, I couldn't have done that 10 years ago. Right. People had to have a certain belief in me to say, yes, I'm going to vote on this. And then really the marketing is not what I say. The marketing is what other people say. Right. So one of the, the amazing things is that every time we've had this event, I've never had feedback lower than 5 out of 5 on every key element of the event. The facilities, the food, the networking, the content, the whatever, the entertainment. So everything is 5 out of 5 from every person. Because we pay attention to every single detail, trying to like surprise and delight and nurture. And because, especially if you're going for the first time, it's just kind of sort of overwhelming how different it is, how fun it is. And the people that come back can't wait to get back. There's a person that's been to every Uprising except one, and this is a guy named Matthew Sweezy. Matthew was the futurist for Salesforce, and he left me feedback. He said, Mark, the Uprising is the only place I want to be. Every other place I go, I need to be there. Mm-hmm. I want to be here. When I go to bed at night, I feel so happy because I just feel like I belong here. So, once you walk through that door, hopefully you just get this feeling that it's going to be okay. I belong here. I'm going to leave the rest of the world behind, and we've got something new going on here. And that's why people, come back over and over again. We've got people that have come back 3, 4, 5 times in a row.
A 30-person event and word of mouth marketing, probably with the weighty brand that you have, it's probably fairly easy to fill the spots. I know there's always the couple that you're trying to fill. I'm thinking about other event organizers who are sitting here listening to this conversation. And especially if you're putting on a new event and you're trying to do this, the first time, if you don't have that brand and people who already trust you, it might still be hard to do it, even if it's only 30 seats. Would you agree?
You're putting the cart before the horse. You've got to build the personal brand. I mean, there are exceptions. For example, let's say Social Media Examiner, mm-hmm. right? That's a brand.
We people love an event our first year. It was our fourth year.
Yeah, people love you. People love Mike. But, there was a year you weren't able to be there, right? Maybe some year, maybe Mike wouldn't be able to be there. It would still be a successful event because people love the brand. They believe in the brand.
Yes.
But if you're an entrepreneur or you're a business person trying to create this yourself, then, you do have to build that trust so people kind of have an idea of what they're going to be in for. And I think the best advice I can give is, the one of the mantras in my business is that we always do the right thing, even if it hurts. No matter what, we do the right thing, even if it hurts. And when you're building a brand, you can't cut corners. You can't compromise. If you stand for something, then you can't cut corners. I mean, you that's got to come through in everything that you do. So, of course, just like everyone, we had to cancel, during the pandemic. And I lost tens of thousands of dollars on, different fees and deposits and all this stuff, right? And my wife was going crazy. And I said, we're going to give everything back. We're going to give every single penny back because it's not their fault. And, it's going to hurt, but too bad. We'll come back someday. And we want people to think, this is a guy that does the right thing. And he's going to do the right thing at this event.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. Let's transition. You're working on a new book. In the preamble, you were saying that this is one of the most fun things that you've worked on this year. Tell us just briefly what the book's going to be about, and then let's transition into how it relates to the events that you're putting on.
Yeah, well, I haven't really talked about it much. So this I don't know. This might be a world debut or close to it.
Right.
Yeah, but it's gonna because it's coming out in January, and I usually don't do pre-sales, so I'm getting my marketing materials ready now because the book literally is just going through the final editing right now. So the
You don't
name
have
of
to
the
talk about the book if you don't want to.
no, that's fine. Yeah. So the name of the book, it's called Audacious: The Rebel's Guide to Disruptive Marketing.
Hmm.
And the sort of the theme of the book is that we're just in this world of the AI bots are taking over, and they're creating infinite content, and we're in this pandemic of dull. It's dull.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got research to back up that most marketing is dull. In fact, there's a story in the book about a guy that did an experiment, and he did ad testing on a video of cows eating grass. This was the most boring thing he could think of, and it outperformed like 60% of TV advertising.
Oh my goodness!
Cows eating grass. So the bar is kind of low, and the idea in this book is that we just have to stop being boring. We just have to stop. That the bots are coming. They're coming after our skills. They're coming after our jobs, but we still own crazy. And we have got to unleash some audacity. We have got to transcend the normal. Being competent does not start a conversation. You have got to push the boundaries. So the book looks at this from a holistic perspective. There's a framework in the book about disrupting 3 elements of storytelling. And in each part of the book, I've had this amazing journey where I've got to interview some of the most acclaimed experts in the world, some of the most creative geniuses in the world. These are people that are winning Emmys. They're winning Clio Awards. They're winning the Cannes Lions Festival Awards. I mean, these are the top people in New York, in Australia, around the world. And they told me their secrets. They just told me their secrets. There was a woman who was a beta reader of the book. And so this is a beta reader is someone who reads the book to try to make sure everything makes sense. And she said, I cannot believe these people told you these things. She said, I want to go hug these people because these are things that I can start using right now. And the feedback from the beta readers has been, this book doesn't just inform, this book inspires. It is a page turner. It is so interesting. It is so fun. It is so dazzling. You just can't wait to get to the next chapter. And, there are some things about the book I don't think I'll talk about yet, but a book called Audacious better be audacious. And there's some things about this book that are first in the world.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. But one of the concepts in the book that you've told me about, and this is something you've actually talked to me about for years, because I remember you were here in Wichita and we talked about this concept of awe. And I know that's one of the principles that you've tried to apply to the Uprising, is creating a sense of awe. And I'm wondering if you could just elaborate what that means, and specifically, like, how has that affected some decisions that you've made?
Well, do you remember a guy named Steve Rayson, the founder of BuzzSumo? Did you ever know Steve?
I did not. I've heard the name, but I don't know him.
So Steve founded BuzzSumo, and brilliant man, brilliant company, and they did some of the best research ever on content. And BuzzSumo is unusual that they're looking at billions of pieces of content. And Steve had this idea. He said, what is the word most associated with viral content. So we did this research, and the word was awe. Not surprising.
Yeah.
You know, if you see something you've never seen before, you're probably going to want to talk about it and share it. But the thing that always had me stuck was practically, what does that mean for marketing? What does it mean for an event? You know, awe to me is like the Grand Canyon. It's like holding a baby. It's like, you know, getting a new puppy, or it's like listening to Beethoven. How do you do that in marketing? Now, there was a new book out a couple years ago by a social psychologist, and the book is called Awe. This is the last human emotion to be studied. I mean, every other human emotion has been dissected and studied, but nobody's really studied awe. So he discovered that there are 8 sort of triggers to awe, but he uncovered this concept that like finally put it in context for me. There's a concept called everyday awe. So let me give you an example. If you take a hike in the woods, you know, maybe you got your earbuds in, you're listening to music, it's a sunny day, you're happy. But if you're hiking in the woods with like 10 other people, and they're talking and they're laughing and they're sharing things, it creates something called collective effervescence. It creates awe. You're happier. You're more connected when you're experiencing things with other people. And so it's a big, big, deep topic, because this is something severely lacking in the world today, because most people experience the world by themselves through their earbuds. It's gaming, it's listening to music, it's listening to a podcast, it's listening to an audiobook, it's streaming by yourself. And there was this profound experience I had. So occasionally I do guest lectures at Indiana University, and the professor there is very kind. She said, Mark, you know, you're so generous with your time. Is there something we can do for you? I said, yes. I'd like the students to write an essay about what they're afraid of. Not climate change, something else. So this young man wrote this essay, and he said, I'm so afraid we're missing out on life because we do not have shared experiences like our parents did. When our parents went to a movie, they'd find someone who had a car, they'd all go to the movie together, and then they'd have pizza afterwards. Someone would save their money to buy a record album, and then you'd go to their house and you'd listen to every song over and over again together, and maybe laugh and talk and maybe dance together. We don't do any of that. He said, I can discover my favorite television show and binge it, and nobody else even knows about it. So this is an opportunity for marketing, for events, to create this collective effervescence, to bring people together and create shared experiences and create this everyday awe that is almost completely lacking in our world today. It's a huge seam. It's a huge opportunity. So I've got a big part of the book talking about this. It's just like awe can be created through deep conversations, through an epiphany, a new idea, through experiencing, you know, art with other people, music with other people. And this helped explain for me what was happening at the Uprising. That's the thing that I couldn't get, I couldn't explain. Because if you look at the Uprising on the webpage, if you look at it in words, it doesn't capture the collective effervescence that happens, that creates the awe of this event. Because we hike together. We listen to music together. We talk together. We eat together. And this crazy thing happens.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that there's something when you do a retreat style event. Probably most of the transformational experiences I've had in my life, Mark, have been on a retreat. And I think there's something about getting away from pressure. It's a slower pace. You are creating those collective experiences that you're talking about. Usually there's some element of nature involved.
Yeah.
You and I probably spend a lot of time inside, right? I mean, I know you
Mhm.
live on a lake and you go out, but a good part of our day, and for many of those listening, that's true. So when you do something together, it's outside, it's got this different pace. I'm just trying to think about the things that I'm hearing you say when I think about the event that you've created. You've created a pace, you've created an expectation and an intentionality that people are saying, I'm showing up, I'm all here. I'm not doing work somewhere else. Sandy Carter, like you said, that she was
Yeah.
fully present. And if
Yeah.
that's like the vibe, you're going to have a transformational, awe-inspiring experience because you're together and you've made space for it. As long as you're paying attention, it's going to happen. I feel like you're you're tapping into a formula that all of us who do larger events want, but we have this problem of distraction of people are coming and there's too many things going on in their minds and their lives and even maybe in the space. But when it's a smaller event like you've created, and if everyone's coming in with that desire, hey, we want to be together, we want to figure out what's going on, you've created a container where it's going to happen and everything's taken care of so they feel safe and secure. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, of course something cool is going to happen if you're willing to look for it.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like the combination of the research that I've done on the book combined with my own experience with events is that the lesson is to be in, first of all, to grasp that awe is possible.
Yes.
That's a big like mental framework, because
Yeah.
you think awe, it's like, a waterfall in Iceland or something, right? Well, yes, awe is vast, but awe is, there's also this everyday thing that happens. Interesting. So we can create these moments. It doesn't have to be a waterfall. So how can we be intentional about that if we know that the secret is this collective effervescence? How can we engineer that? And so here's the marketing plan for the Uprising. Add more awe. That's it. Because if I add, because so the last Uprising was in April, and like this remarkable thing happened. Like almost every person that came to that event wrote a post on LinkedIn about this event.
Wow.
It was like, wow. I mean, a long one.
And you didn't
And
ask them to, right? That's
no,
just something they did.
I didn't ask. I mean, I don't, I'm terrible at that kind of thing, actually. But they just felt compelled, and they just said, hey, I just experienced something. If you get a chance to do this, you really need to do this. It's like, oh, wow. And there are lots of personal stories. Like I have a friend, Daniel Nessel, and I think he's been to 3 in a row. He's coming in October. It's going to be like 4 in a row. And he said, if you look at the trajectory of my career, there's always a bump forward after every Uprising. So there is this thing that kind of happens on a personal, professional level that people want to talk about it. They're excited about it. And it's nothing that I prompt, but if I think if I create awe, then people will want to talk about it.
Give us a couple examples of ways that you've created awe, maybe at the event that you just did. And if you want to foreshadow something you're going to do in October, you can, but give us a couple examples.
Well, so one of the things that we do is the event ends every day at 4:00. And at 4:00 to 6:00, it's a relaxation time. So you have different options. You can do nothing. You can catch up on emails. You can go on a hike. You can go do yoga. You can sit by a pond and just sit in the sun. You can find a new friend, and you can like consolidate your notes. And what I've found is that people never spend time by themselves. They always do one of these activities that's like with a group. And sort of this idea of awe, it sort of made an impact on me when we took a hike and there was a person hiking next to me, and she had her camera out and she wanted to capture the people behind her. And she said, "This is so cool." She said, "I never dreamed I would be on a hike with you and Nancy Harhut." So see, it wasn't just a hike, right? It was awe. If she was by herself, there wouldn't be the awe. There could be contentment. There could be, happiness. But it's awe because she's experiencing this with other cool people. I think, and we do that same sort of thing when it comes to music. We have a private concert, and we try to just have all kinds of different surprises that get people laughing and get, when you're laughing together, when you see something together or experience with these new friends, it just creates this effervescence that you won't have if you're alone. And that creates a lasting memory. It's something that sticks with you. And so we're very intentional about, creating that in everything we do.
You're reminding me of an experience that I got to be part of last month. I was in Cancun at an event called the Commitment Summit, and they had asked me to bring my saxophone and, to play as people were arriving. And I didn't know what that was going to mean or look like. And they didn't either, by the way. So I got there and, they had microphones for me and I could play on the stage, but I walked out in this lobby and it was this marble, tall lobby space. And I walked out there and I said, "I wonder what it'd sound like here." And I was like, "I love this. It feels like I'm playing in the bathroom," which is one of my favorite places to play because the acoustics are amazing. So I did that. And when the event organizer walked up, I said, "Hey, what do you think about me playing out here instead of in the ballroom?" And she said, "Yes." And then the next thing I know, she pulls out her phone and she starts to record the moment. And I'm going to get emotional because when she pulled her phone down, tears were flooding down her face because we had an experience together.
That's awe, baby.
It was awe. That's
awe, baby.
And I was in awe because I didn't know I was having that kind of impact, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was unexpected. It was every day in a sense because, I didn't plan for that. So I think,
there was something similar like in 2020. So again, I always look at who's attending the event. I try to create this cocktail of surprises and connections. So one of the person that attended in 2022 was an opera singer. So after dinner, she prepared a program of jazz standards. Okay. And she had recorded a piano accompaniment that sort of had something to do with marketing. So she told a little story. She started singing. And I looked around the room and there were tears coming up people's faces. I thought, what is going on? And I realized this is probably the first time they've heard live music in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable. The reaction, the emotion to this moment. And again, it was sort of, I didn't expect that reaction, but it was just sort of like you. It was unintended awe. And that's part of the idea behind the Audacious book too, is just get out of your comfort zone because there's going to be unintended things that happen that could be magical, but you're never going to know if you just, stay in the box. We live in a world where boring is rewarded. If boring is rewarded because it's easy to get that approved through legal. Boring is rewarded because you're not going to lose your job. You're not going to rock the boat. No one's going to make fun of you if it doesn't work, right? And so it's a challenge to instill a little fearlessness. You and I took a risk in 2019 that inspired awe.
It did. Yes. But
That we had confetti cannons go off the last moment of social media marketing world, and we had lights going and music going, and that was a moment I'll never forget. It's a moment that thousands of people will never forget, because we just tried something different.
yeah. No, it's amazing. Just as a quick aside here, it looks like your friend Tom asks if flash mobs fit into the rising marketing culture of awe.
Great idea, Tom. I've got a few slots left for October. You are our flash mob leader. Come and join us in October. Oh, I would love that. I would love that. I mean, especially because, my children have paid me not to dance. So if I was part of a flash mob, that probably would be memorable.
It would definitely be memorable. I think a tone that I'm hearing in what you're saying is it doesn't have to be the big produced moments that create awe. It can be something that you're not expecting, asking someone to sing or play or create art or read a poem could end up being that very thing for someone or for the entire group. And it sounds to me, and I know you're a big proponent of being human, inviting people to be human and bring who they are to the gathering where they're taking place. And you've given space and permission to do that. Is that fair, or would you add to that?
And you bring up, there's a nuanced point here, and that is like the culture of the event.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important for me to have some alumni at my event, because they know the culture, they know the tone, and it's different. And I remember a couple of years ago, there's a guy came and he said, after the first day, he said, Mark, I came here, I thought this is going to be an opportunity for like lead generation. He said, I get it now. He said, this is remarkable. He said, I see there's something else going on here now. And that's because he could see how the other people were acting and who the people who had been there before. The alumni, they'll take special leadership roles. They'll have special facilitation roles at the event. So the alumni, they help perpetuate the culture, and so that's a big part of my success in that event.
Are you specifically inviting/recruiting certain alumni back, or is it just happening organically?
It's happening organically, and then but yeah, it's like I've like there was the first time I ever did it, I recruited a few friends to be there because I said I'm so scared out of my mind. It would really be helpful if I had a couple friends that would just, if something goes wrong, I could turn to you and say, I need your help right now. But that's the role that the alumni have kind of like taken on. And it can just be a little thing.
Yeah. Well, they probably feel like it's our event, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. They absolutely know that this is special and they want it to succeed. And it just might be a little word like, hey, I see that this person is struggling or they're quiet, could you make a special effort to make sure they feel included or something? I could trust them because they know, because, likely they were in that place once, one of the obstacles that I fight against is a lot of people, maybe they hear about it or they look at the website and they feel intimidated. They say, oh, geez, I don't think I would belong here. Because it's just like you. They think, oh, there's a lot of important people coming. But really, I mean, it just works. Everybody, once you get there, you feel connected. I mean, after the first welcome dinner, all the egos are gone. The egos, the pretense, it's left at the door. Everybody is just a person. And So, and that's a big part of the culture of the event.
I'm putting up the website for the Uprising. Just go to
Okay.
businessesgrow.com/uprising, and you guys can learn about the event. Your friend Tom has another observation that I think is worth reading and letting you respond. He says, in helping a company to define its unique brand, asking them to define their cockfight could be very telling.
Yeah, I mean, the trick I use, it's not really a trick. It's it's a technique, is whether I help people with a corporate brand or a personal brand. I mean, one of the techniques I use that's very effective is say, how do you finish this sentence? Only we or only I, right? And that can be really, really hard to do. But if you can do that, it just unleashes the brand, because now you know what to say and who to say it to and where to say it. You know your point of differentiation. You know why people care about you. You know who cares about you. You know what bothers your competitors. So maybe that's the cockfight he's talking about. The cockfight of awe.
The cockfight of awe.
I might use that one. Not sure that's politically correct, but
yeah, I wouldn't take people to a cockfight at your next event. That might not go over so well.
No.
Well, Mark, I told you at the beginning before we went live that we were going to end with what I call my signature sign off, which that is, I ask you to give me 3 words from this conversation and I'm going to play. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. And before you do, is there any closing words that you have for us from this conversation today that you'd like to end on?
Well, I guess sort of my signature ending is one of my favorite phrases is the most human company wins. That was the subtitle of the Marketing Rebellion book, and it's something I believe in, and I just would encourage people to think about, how do we add that human connection in every customer touch point, in every email, in every text message, in every meeting, in every contract, in every complaint, in every sales call. How do we show our face, show our heart, show our passion, our compassion? And how do we be the most human company? How do we be the most human event? And those are the ones that will stand the test of time in an AI world.
I can only say amen to that. We've already decided one of the 3 words to summarize this conversation is awe. So we're going to go with that.
Okay.
Give me 2 words that stand out from this. I've written a few down, but I'd love to know what's kind of standing out for you.
Well, 2 words that stand out for me would be humanity, because I think that's the key to success in an event. It's the theme of my new book. It's sort of like the anti-AI book, to say, look, what are the human fireworks that we need to ignite right now? So I think we need to dig deep with our humanity right now, and with our uniqueness. And the other word that comes to mind really is just appreciation of the conversation, of you having me on the show. And I think the cool friendship and chemistry that you and I have that have led this to be a really cool conversation where both of us were on the brink of tears.
Yeah, I can't say it's the only time that's ever happened for me, but it is unusual for it to happen. So,
right.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to just play for a minute, responding to the ideas of humanity, awe, and appreciation. And I appreciate you, my friend, and those of you who have been listening.
Check this out. What a great way to end a show. That is remarkable.
Mark,
That I'm filled with awe.
thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you on the next episode of the Event Innovator Show. Have a great day, everyone.